Ooh, it is zombie time. So scary. Take a look around. Isn't this awesome? What is there behind me? A little kitty telling you to turn around because we are about to start the show and let's get it on the road. Come on now. So, hey everybody, and welcome to our very first live stream 360. This is so cool, and I hear myself talking, which as much as I love to hear myself talking, that's enough of myself talking. There's only one to be talking, and that is me. No, there isn't. There's also you guys too. Feel free to hit me up on live chat. I have this going right here so I can watch you. And if you take a look around, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can use your mouse to kind of scroll around and kind of check out my little shop here. It's pretty cool. It's a little intimate, but I think that gives us a chance to just kind of be one-on-one. Now, some of you have watched my live streams before, and if you haven't, you're a first-time joiner. I'm Rachel DeBarros, and we do all kinds of videos from automotive to science to geeky stuff to home improvement stuff, kind of all that fun, and we do it all here. No real special equipment, just a lot of the basic tools that you see hanging right here. Turn your head. If you're watching this on mobile, that's even cooler because here I have my mobile phone, and all you have to do is either just watch like this. You can look at the ceiling, you can look at the ground here, or you can also just scroll that way. But one of the more fun ways to watch is actually to pick up one of those headsets. Now, you can get them pretty cheap for maybe a little over $10, so really, really cheap. I have one. That way, you can just use your head to look around as if you were standing right in this room. It's like we're like sitting side by side. I think that's pretty cool. So I'm going to put the phone away because right now it's you and me time, you guys and me time. So keep your comments coming, and some of you that have checked out the page and kind of saw hints of this project going on, it's Halloween. Halloween is my favorite holiday. I start decorating for it sometime in September. So yeah, I know maybe the neighbors aren't too thrilled. So what we have going on here with these 360 live streams is a behind the scenes. You'll notice that we've done clip shows in the past where the project is already done, not like what we have here. And we basically take you through clips of the entire process of getting done. It's live, so I answer questions. We kind of review clips again if some of you guys want to see some things again. But in this behind the scenes, it's actually a lot of planning, a lot of building, and you're going to notice that a lot of stuff just doesn't go right. And this is the stuff that you're going to watch today that a lot of times doesn't make it into our official videos. So before we get started with this array, maybe a little shop tour is in order, and this is going to be the shortest tour ever because if you've been looking around, you've pretty much see how things are laid out. Over on this side, follow me around, scroll. We have our Goku versus Superman dresser. This is something that we put together. We put out a lot of video. We even did a live stream and talked about all of the various Superman and Goku fights in a theoretical discussion of who would win, either Superman or Goku. So you can always go back and watch that. You can also go back and watch this stream as well. So moving on, of course, I have all my most amazing stuff here. I just finished using this paint, so that's why that's out of place. Well, everything here is kind of out of place. It's kind of my disorganized, organized way of having things. So moving on, I have my red toolbox here. A lot of my automotive tools are here, home tools, hooks, hanging things, home repair, emergency home repair. We have little Chewy holding the blaster that I made. Now, this was another live stream that we did where this was in 2D actually, and you guys saw bits and pieces of how this came together. There were a couple fail moments, but we kind of fixed some of the areas. So I'm thinking, it looks really good now, but only those of you that watched the live stream saw some of the oops moments that we had. So one of the things that I'm thinking of doing with this, you can see that I hollowed out the front here, and the back is putting a laser pointer in here. I think that would be cool. Batteries still work. Lamest blaster sound ever. I don't know, we might have to fix that, put in another sound effect. But I'm going to go ahead and give that back to Chewy here. And behind me, I have the fabulous, most prestigious, amazing garage door. And yeah, that kind of goes out the front where the cars are parked. You see that we don't park any cars in here. Car people, how many of you park your cars in the garage? Especially a small garage, probably none of you, because you need it as a workshop or you need it to store kind of your own personal items from the home. So moving, probably some of you on the 360 cam, see kind of this thing right here. This was another live stream where we made a rolling tire ottoman stool. This is great. I use this a lot on the driveway to just kind of roll around doing brake jobs, oil changes, that kind of thing. So rather than toss these tires out, I just grab another one from the pile and make another chair or make, you know, something out of it. So moving here is my bigger toolbox, and here I have a lot of the electronic stuff. More home and bigger tools towards the bottom there. I love vintage things, so you'll see a variety of different telephones. Get Smart promo shoe, that was a lot of fun. I do have a car phone, so check out how that works. And a Heinz tomato ketchup phone with the dials even on it. A little Mopar light, and now y'all doesn't want to stand up. He's like, wait, you took me out, now you gotta use me. And cool gas pump, Texaco gas pump. Now this is a replica, so it's not the real deal. So still looking for that kind of stuff. So love old stuff. If there's a way to repurpose it and make it work even as something else, that's pretty cool. And then my wall of tools, you can see here, very simple things. If you look closely, you can see a lot of it is rusted because some of these tools have been in the family for generations, and I'm sure you guys are the same way. Oftentimes the old tools, they work the best, so I keep them around even if they have like a little bit of rust. They always work the best. And of course my row of duct tape there, small parts bin up and down, a couple more knickknacks towards the top. And some of you may be wondering, just scrolling the chat here, whoa, I scrolled myself. So some of you may be wondering, what the heck is up with this black curtain? Like, what is she hiding? Is she hiding anything? Well, the cool thing about that is that our streaming gear is back there. So sometimes it gets dusty, it gets dirty. It kind of helps protect our gear. And our poor operator back there, he's awesome. So he's checking the stream, making sure everything is running right. So let's give him a hand, everybody. I solo am giving a hand, so I know you guys are too. And then after that, if you look directly behind me, what we've done is put a screen, and that's a webcam, kind of showcasing what is happening on the table. So if you're kind of get tired of like scrolling up and down, or if you're wearing the headset and you've been kind of like looking down the entire time at the table like I am, well, you guys can actually gaze up at that screen instead and only let me develop neck hurdy syndrome by looking down. So 2 features for you, so you can always turn around or watch me and build with me. I have your live chats going, so anytime that you have questions, sometimes the live chat does lag behind to where I'm actually talking, so sometimes it'll seem like I'm getting to your questions a lot later than what you've posted, but be patient. I get to as many people as I can. So we've covered the 360 live stream, we've covered the little webcam, the magic going on behind the curtain, and well, then there's this camera. What the heck is up with that? Well, again, this is a behind the scenes live stream. So what we're doing here is running this camera, getting close-up shots of everything that I'm doing here. And then we take this footage and turn it into the clip shows that you guys see on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Now, we do this about once a month towards the end of the month. It's usually the last Wednesday of the month at 7 p.m. EDT, where it's a very quick clip show. We go through the clips, we answer questions, go through the project, so you guys can replicate it or make it even better yourselves. So this is not that. If you're coming in here and thinking, oh, we're gonna watch a zombie fountainhead come to life in about 10 minutes, that is not gonna happen. Because those of you that build at home know that's never how it happens. And sometimes we'll go through these builds and do like a minuscule portion of the build because it took so long to figure out all the problems and get everything squared away. And sometimes the project we really pull our hair out. It just never makes it. And that's another cool thing with these live builds, is trying to kind of break that wall between the screen, between you guys and me, so we can chat. There's been so many times where you guys via chat have put out a really good suggestion and said, no, don't do it that way, or help me find my 10mm that goes missing. Oftentimes you guys will see it on the screen and tell me where it is. And sometimes you don't, because you're like to play with me that way. It's kind of mean. Or not. I would probably do the same thing, I admit. All right, so let's get started with this build. And Halloween being my absolute favorite event and holiday of the year, well, I figured I needed to build something cool. We have some other Halloween goodies going up this Friday and next, but I wanted to build something kind of cool and big. And a lot of you know that I play violin, electric violin, so oftentimes at these parties we see those chocolate fountains, the dessert chocolate fountains where you can dip bananas and fruits and they're really delicious. So knowing how popular that is, I'm like, I gotta find a way to Halloween-oize this concept. So I've been trying to think of building my own chocolate, but kind of make it look like blood fountain. And instead of chocolate, what is another thing that goes with chocolate? Well, wine, punch mixes, that type of thing. Some kind of dessert drink or party drink. So think of this as a centerpiece. A centerpiece of what? I am not quite sure, but this is kind of my idea. We have the much needed zombie head right here. And of course, no Halloween project is complete without a trip to the dollar store. So we got our floating googly eyes right here. And I'm thinking, well, with this pot right there, we'll be able to float these around because they kind of look like they're kind of ping pong ball. So my theory is that they will float. Them still being in their packaging, I didn't test this. So we're gonna go with that assumption. And you'll find that we go with a lot of assumptions here. And I think that's half the problem with these builds. So anyways, we have the pot that's gonna house our adult beverage, right? We have these cool eyeballs floating around in the mixture. So, of course, the fountain. We need something elevated and dripping. So, check out this zombie. I thought it was so cool how his eye is just like totally coming out, and there's so many cool blood areas. And what if some blood started to, or adult beverage started to just pour out, and you can stick your cup in and, you know, fill it up, drink it, and enjoy a good night. So anyways, we need a way of levitating this guy. So I'm just gonna put this aside, and if you guys are watching the screen in the back, turn around and face me for a second, because this is gonna get real tall and it's gonna get out of view for that particular screen. So I'm gonna put zombie head aside. So we need a way to put this zombie head on a stake. It's gotta be elevated so that way the blood kind of just like drips down. So I came up with this contraption right here, and a lot of you guys just looking at it will recognize immediately what it is. I'm just gonna move that right there. All right, so this is basically a toilet flange. You get this all in the PVC section of the hardware store. So toilet flange here, and we have a 2-inch to 1-inch adapter right here. And then of course this is a piece of 1-inch tubing that I had lying around from a previous project. Some of you will remember my Christmas-zuka build, which is an air gun that fires confetti for some quick decorating. So I have this other piece right here because I really just kind of toyed with how to do this. In order to get the liquid up the tube, well, we're gonna need a water pump and some tubing. So I have that here, and I just ordered this stuff online. You can also buy it at the hardware store. So the idea is, and I'm gonna try and move all this close to you guys. Let's get the moss out of the way because we don't quite need that just yet. And roll in your suggestions as we go along here. So we have our pot, and I haven't quite figured out how to do this yet. Floaty eyeballs. So you'll see here that I drilled a hole for our tubing because the tubing is going to go up through the pipe, and then originally I had this piece on top like this, and then the tubing was going to come out inside the zombie head and come out the eye. Well, once I put the zombie head on top of this, like, check out what I mean. This is so lame. So I have a tiny little hole that I opened up right here. And the idea is just to have them inside the steak, like this. And I don't know, you guys may agree, you may not agree, but I thought that just kind of looked lame because it literally looks like you just put a zombie head on top of some PVC piping. It's just wasn't doing it for me. So I thought, turn them around, what if some of the steak comes out of its head like that? That would look way more realistic. And so I bagged this whole elbow joint here, which was supposed to be inside and guide the tube to the eyeball here. And instead, I went ahead and took a Dremel with a little cut wheel and created like a cool, just marred effect. Like this has been old, it's been broken off, and the zombie head just fell on it, and it was going to poke right through the skull, so to ensure he's dead, because we don't want to turn into zombies too. I'm still trying to figure out, like, drinking the zombie fruit punch, will that turn you into a zombie? I don't know. But you can see the tips here and how it was done. Now, if some of you are watching and you want better quality, make sure to tap on YouTube, the quality setting, and put that all the way up so you get the sharpest image that you can to see all these details. And you can also switch to the screen behind you to see, further details. But you can see how these all look marred. And the way I did that was just with a Dremel cut wheel and just kind of tapping it on there, almost like a paintbrush, just like bing, 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 with that sound effect too. And it creates these marks. Now you can see what I did here was create some gashes in our metal pole, because if you think it's like the apocalypse, it's the zombies are after us, nothing is gonna look pristine. Now, one of the questions that I have is where to put all this. So if we have like the zombie head sitting on top of our steak here, I'm just gonna hold him here. Now, his eyeball could be just dripping in a pan like this, or if I get an even bigger like cauldron or something like that, he can even sit inside and just have the entire thing be self-contained. So I'm trying to figure out if I want to go the self-contained route or the sitting side-by-side route, which I think would kind of be cool because people wouldn't really know where the liquid is coming from. It just kind of looks like it would be coming from underneath the table and falling into the pot. So I thought that would be kind of cool. One of the reasons, like, when you use PVC for projects, oftentimes they look very PVC. So that's one of the reasons I like to mar it up a little bit. One of the things that I thought about doing was just getting rid of these notches here, because that nothing says like adapter, like PVC adapter, like those notches. The writing, you can definitely see all that there. Normally I like to sand all that off and get it nice and clean so people don't really know what it is. You can mar all this, but if this sits in the pot, the liquid is going to cover it anyway, so I didn't go too nuts there. But if it sits outside, well, I was going to cover it with some like moss, like it's been growing there for a long time. And the other purpose for the dollar store moss is to cover up this hole where the tubing is going to come from. So that way people don't see the tubing coming out, and then you can have a really cool runner or tablecloth that you can cut a little hole into, or just run more moss till it gets to your pot. And the only thing you'd have to do is just kind of up and over with the electrical cord and the tubing. So we'd have to find a way to kind of disguise that. So there's a lot of disguise things that we have to figure out. But I figure we've gotten this far, so what I did was spray paint this with this spray, this color right here, and this is our antique pewter from Rust-Oleum, and it creates automatically a hammered effect without you having to really try. So I'm just going to fire up my comments here now, because it fell asleep. All right, so taking this, we need to find a way to really bloody this up. So thinking of where the zombie head is going to sit, maybe we can get that going first, so that way we can figure out how much of this we need to bloody up, because I figure where the zombie head sits, we can kind of moss some of it down and make sure our moss is really glued in there, because if we do put this in the pot, we don't want moss kind of falling in the beverage. It's kind of nasty. Or maybe it's nutritious. Who knows? So in order to get this working, let me pre-feed the tube, because one of the things that we have to figure out is you'll notice that I have a hole right here. And if this is popping up through the zombie head, well, we need another hole in order to allow the tube to come out, because before we had this piece and this piece was just going to allow the tube to come out, but we don't have it anymore. So I figure we need another hole, which is gonna kind of mess up the paint job, but this is gonna be inside the skull, so I'm not really worried about that too much. So the first thing I'm gonna do is kind of figure out positioning, and I'm an eyeballer, so we're just gonna eyeball this one. And let's see, so I kind of like this kind of divot where it divots down, and we can see that the hole here, kind of want that towards the back of the zombie head. So facing you guys, perhaps something like this, and with these sharp edges here, makes it a little tougher to get them in there. All right, and we'll have to take this off. This is ridiculous too. So we have our zombie head, and I can feel the top of the pole here, and let me turn it just like that. And if this is his eyeball, we're gonna make him drip, you know, something like this. So I'm gonna mark the top of this with a Sharpie so we can make a little hole and get him situated. And then I'll know with a Sharpie here, I'll make a note that between this space and this space, we need to put some kind of hole that will then go to this eye so we can run some tubing. So I would say that coming out kind of towards his ear, I'm just going to turn this to me. Enough action for you guys. Let me see what the heck it is I'm doing, working blind here. So I think that looks pretty good there. And his head is stuffed with kind of like a, not necessarily cotton, but kind of a fabric-y type of cottony, fibrous looking stuffing. So he's not 100% foam or soft foam. So that makes it a lot easier, or else you're going to have to sit there and dig a lot. So I'm going to make a little mark, and I'll show you guys kind of something like that. And you can see, as is typical of my eyeballing, we come out with several marks, and we're going to hope that one of those work. So let's go ahead and mark the bottom as well. And I know once he pokes through, he will sit a little bit lower, but let's kind of give myself like a starter idea of how things are looking. So what I'm going to do is pull him off. And it'll probably be easier for me to open up the entire neck here. And you can see it's two pieces, and I used a heat gun to kind of separate the two. But because this is like cheap foam, it really does burn easily, and it cracks the paint. So you want to use the heat gun sparingly. So it's what I found. So you guys weren't here for that fail. But this is the material I was talking about, and I think if you find a zombie head, you can find them for so cheap and inexpensive on, you know, big box stores. Now's the time. As Halloween is approaching, I'm noticing everything is blowing out right now, so I'm gonna hit, you know, the stores up this weekend as well. But anyways, this material inside makes it a ton easier to work with, and we're going to stuff it back in. Don't want him to lose all his brains. So here's our markings. Let me grab some scissors here and kind of make a cut. Do this without cutting the material, so I'm going to feed my hand through and see what we got going on here. Let me fire up this camera and get this recording on, so that way for the clip show you can watch the fast version of this, but you guys get to see all of the tribulations. So I'm going to move this over here. Try not to hit you guys. And there we go. Hit the record on there. All right, so here is where I Sharpied everything. I'm just showing this other camera here because you guys got to see it first. And now I'm going to go ahead and cut this. I'm gonna just maybe make an X. And we'll cut it like small at first and see kind of how it fits before cutting it big. Because I'm hoping to use just kind of the rubber texture to hold the head in place. I'll use like a light super glue or even hot glue gun. What I like about the hot glue gun is that if you get bored of the project or you want to disassemble it, a little bit of heat gun action will do that for you versus super glue is a little bit tougher. So this is kind of a tough material. So I figure I need to build these things anyways, right? So I might as well just run the cameras and have you guys watch me flounder about as I build these things. And then when you watch the clip show, it goes by so quick and you're like, wait a minute, that's not how it happened. Kind of like TV reality shows, right? You're like, wait, I know how long it takes to do that. There's no way that is done in such a short amount of time. All right, so we got a little pierce there, and now I'm going to cut the rest of the X. And you guys see me constantly looking at that other camera because it has happened in the past where you get through a good portion of the project and you weren't even in frame because I'm way too busy talking to you guys. I know, priorities, right? And then I'm like, oh, then you got to try and verbally explain what you did. And it's always nice to be able to see it. So, and it could also be these scissors that aren't cutting so well anymore. All right, so let's do it again. Let's do a test fit. Now I'm just going to turn that guy off for a second there. And so if you guys switch and face me real quick, get this positioned so we have our divot here and try and feed him. Something tells me I'm going to have to take the bottom of this thing off. I'm trying not to. I'm trying to do the minimum damage only because it always looks so much better. Let me move his cotton brains out of the way. Actually, let me create a path. Let me move his brains to the other side of his brains, or his head. All right, so here we go. So if you guys are just joining us, some of you I see popping in, well, this is a behind the scenes stream. So you guys get to see all the amazing fails, and you can already see I need to cut just a little bit more there to get him to slide on down, but he's looking pretty good like this. The head just looks so gross. This is gonna be gross, but I hope people still drink out of it because that would be kind of sad if they didn't after all this work. But some people might be grossed out. But hey guys, that looks so much better. I'm really liking that. Check that out. That's so cool. So let me mark kind of a new spot, which makes that other spot totally obsolete and didn't need to be marked in the first place. So that's looking good. And once I drill the hole going that way, I'll go ahead and just kind of super glue or hot glue gun the top of the zombie's head a little bit and the bottom just to kind of hold him in place. He's pretty well established there. He's not really going anywhere, but perhaps if people partake much of the adult beverage, then I just want to make sure he's not going anywhere, become dangerous, become hungry. Brains! So, love me my zombie genre. So, I think the eye is the best place for it to come out, but I don't know. Kind of rotating this. Look at the ear. Ew, that is nasty. You know what? I can't drink no ear beverage. I don't care how tasty of an adult beverage is. If it's coming out of the ear, I don't think I could do it. I think eyeball it is for me. Yeah, so we're going to stick with the eyes, not the nose and not the ears. That's just, yeah, I wouldn't be able to drink it. All right, so that's looking good. Let me see then if our divot is here. Then I kind of need to drill, and his eye is in this direction. I'm thinking I kind of need to drill like right about here. So you can see how well we are measuring. It's called eyeballing it. Like literally eyeballing it. All right, so let's get him off rather gently here. Okay. I'll put him in my stew. He's gonna happily wait there for a bit. And in order to drill this, you can see how amazingly I have a vise to hold it, as in not at all. So we're just going to do the best we can, which is one of the reasons that I put you guys on a stand on the floor. Because the other fine feature of this shop is this child's craft table. So you see what I got going on here. It's getting jiggy with it. So anytime we work, everything kind of moves around. So if you measure, that's why we don't measure, because you try and drill a hole, everything moves around, ends up somewhere else anyways. So we're just gonna keep eyeballing. It's been working for me. So let me grab a drill here. If you guys follow me along here, you can see kind of where I keep my stuff, and I think I still have batteries. So let me go in here, grab this. And I'll probably start with like a little pilot hole and then work my way up to something better. So I'm going to take a wee tiny one and put him here. And we don't really show all the details during our clip shows either. We kind of show the highlights of the project. So if you guys are watching, then get to see everything, whether you want to or not, but you get to see everything. All right, so what did we say? We said something about here is kind of where the zombie head sits, and if we do kind of another quick reference, he's kind of like this, so his eye is kind of here, so his eye is kind of like here. Maybe we can drill something like right around here. This is like super eyeballing it right now. All right. Luckily this is on the zombie head, so we can always multi drill. And there goes my dollar moth. Oh no. All right, so I'm going to set this camera up, which is almost out of battery, but we're gonna try and milk this camera. We're gonna be like, nope, it's trying to tap out. We don't let it tap out. Just gonna move this out of the shot of this camera. Of course, you guys get to see kind of everything, and I'm just gonna zoom in with this camera so we can see the most amazing things. All right, so like I said, no vise, no nothing, and we're just going to try and go for it. All right, and just making sure it is visible on our main camera here that is recording, so we can watch it later in all its glory. Oh, ears. Might want to mute that. All right, so we have our pilot hole there, and let's jump up. Normally, it's a good idea to jump up a bit slowly. Sometimes I jump all the way, and then there's some regrets, but let's see. I know I eventually want to use my biggest size, because if you look at the tubing, that's kind of what's going to help us out the most. So normally you'd want to step up. That's the better way to do it. But we're going to try and just because we got a long way to go on this project. So there we go. And we are still recording on the other camera, and I'm just going to make sure that that's in sight, and of course you guys can see what the heck it is I'm doing. So we're going to try and go in with this. If we need to step down and admit our mistakes, we'll definitely do that. There we go. And we got it mostly through. Mostly. I'm just going to step. There we go. Come back here. It's running away like, ew, your project is so gross. I want nothing to do with this. I'm saying, oh, but you do. All right, let's try this again. I'm trying to get in between all this nastiness. Oh, the torque is not with me. There we go. That should be enough. And that's what happens when you cut corners, which we'll be doing plenty of here. All right, so we have our hole drilled. I'm just going to open that up real quick with our file. All right. So laying this back down again and just kind of getting the big barbs out of here. And I'm probably going to open this up just slightly more, because clearly I've used this file far too many times. It's like, please retire me, please. But nothing gets retired here, not even sandpaper. Like, you find that little tiny centimeter, square centimeter that is still hanging on, and you're like, yep, now I'm going to go ahead and make you work for it. All right, I'm going to go to this size now just to kind of clean up the edges. And it's probably way easier for me to do this on the floor where I have more leverage, but you guys have to be able to see this. So I suffer for your enjoyment. All right. So let's see if we can get this a little bit more cleaned up, and probably time for a battery change as well, but let's milk it. All right. Put you here. You here. All right. So get this all cleaned up. Make sure it fits. Let me just turn off that camera. And there we go. Almost. Just clean this out a little bit more. Clean out song. Yeah, we need some tunes in here or something. It gets quite quiet, but usually we're too busy chatting it up. All right. Some nice smooth edges for the tubing. This tubing was like really thick, and you want to make sure that you get food grade tubing. A lot of aquariums will have them, or home improvement stores. You don't want just the stuff that is not made for human consumption, like foods and drinks. So you want to make sure you can actually drink what comes out of there. All right. Almost. Because what I found with the one at the bottom, even my biggest bit doesn't quite get you there, so you just have to kind of go the rest with a file or my Dremel, which I can also fire up. But we are so almost there. So yeah, if you're looking for like the 5-minute zombie head build, this ain't it. This is our behind the scenes where we trial and error, and the people that watch the clip show won't always realize that we not only drilled this hole because we messed up, we probably will drill another hole and another, but they'll never know. Just you guys. So we do these behind the scenes 360 live stream. This is actually our very first one, but we'll be doing one a month for you guys, and then we do even more behind the scenes content for our patrons over on Patreon. So the link to that is on the bottom of this stream if you want to check that out. So we take a lot of photos. You get to see even more detail for each build through photos, through mini tutorials, because we do both live streams, but we also do uploaded stuff as well, like how to solder, how to, you know, a lot of the skill building type of things are done via uploads. So patrons get to see it first, but we also do live instruction. So if you want soldering techniques, you want to stop and say, hey, stop what you're doing, and you want to ask a question or want to see something again. So that's all through Patreon. So if you check the description, it's at the bottom there. You can click over and see all the cool rewards that you can get. All right, there we go. I'm just gonna open this a little bit more so we have some room to further maneuver it around. That's how I clean things. All right. So getting this just opened a tiny bit. And if I mar the surface, I'm not too worried. Only because this is gonna be inside the zombie head anyways. So we don't need to worry too much about it. And this is not as dull as I thought, meaning the tool. Not sure about this tree. But kind of gives you guys an idea of how long it takes to actually put these things together. A lot of times we'll watch an uploaded video and it's like 3 minutes long. And we do those too, kind of the fast forward videos. And you're like, I'm going to tackle this. And then you get into it and you're like, wow, this is going to take me way long. I don't know how this person did it in such a short video. Or it's difficult to kind of anticipate how long things will take when you're watching them on a simple uploaded video. Alright, so blowing it right back in my face. Alright, so let's see how this, that's much better. So it's snug enough, but not too snug where it pinches it. So, just to kind of show you guys this whole setup here, this is our tubing and our little water pump. And the water pump is going to sit inside the bowl there, whether we decide to make it a cauldron or we use a pot similar to that. That's just kind of like my testing pot. That's my good pot. I'm not going to be using that pot. And so, I have the tubing and I have it attached to our water pump. So the water pump will draw in the adult beverage and shoot it through the tube. Now this particular pump can shoot over 2 feet vertically, and that's important. You know, you don't want your thing to be too tall and then it just can't make it. 2 feet should be enough, but there is a chance I might have to swap this out for a more powerful one. And there is a knob here where you can adjust the power setting, so you can make it really slow, or you can adjust the flow to make it like, you know, gushing blood. So we'll see how that works out, because one of the other things too is I can certainly have the blood coming out of his neck, which would make sense because he just got kind of severed, and it would shoot straight down. One of the difficulties with the eye, if he's kind of leaning like this, is that it's going to want to shoot out like this. So we're going to mess with the flow settings a little bit to just kind of maybe get it to shoot out a little bit, or maybe even stream down his face. So I'm going to wash his face up real good and get it to stream down his face. So details, people, details I haven't quite figured out, but we will. So we have zombie head, we have tube. Let's feed the tube and figure out kind of where we want it to come out on his eye, because we are going to make, or I'm going to make, you guys are going to watch me make a hole for this tube, you know, coming out the other way. So let's see here. Let me fire this camera back up again, so you can see kind of our process here. All right, so the ear is like, I hate to say, look how perfect that is to come out the ear, but I can't do it, people. I can't do it. If you can do so, let me know in the comments. I'm curious. But I think I'm going to stick with the eyeball, and that's kind of a nice big place right here that I think I can get a hole cut without it being super, super noticeable. So let's kind of get that started. I'm gonna stand up for this, whoop, so that way I can still show it to this camera, but you guys can see some of the action. I'm just doing a last minute look-see to see if I want to change my mind, but no, I don't. I'm going to make this far more difficult on myself by doing it the eye route versus the bottom of the neck route. All right. Just want to open kind of the smallest hole possible, and then what we're going to do is like paint all the blood effects and the gore effects on the tubing. So here I am crying about ear and nose adult beverage dispensing areas, but we're going to gore this up anyways, so I don't quite understand my logic. It always comes together. Or not. You guys will be the only one that will know if it does not come together. All right. So let's see if we can get our tube kind of going in here, and I'm just out of battery. So what I'm going to do is disappear behind the curtain for like 2 seconds to get a battery. But first, I just want to make sure, I want to make this super snug, like the tube, and of course it'll be coming out the other way. This is just for practice. All right, so let's start feeding. I think I'm going to try and run this battery out. Let's start feeding this. And I probably shouldn't have attached it to the pump, but I just wanted to see if the tubing was going to work. And you can tell that the diameter of my little outlet here is actually the same diameter, outer diameter as the tube. So I didn't want to get another tube, and I didn't quite find a tube with an inner diameter that would fit this. So what I did was use a heat gun around it, and then got it on the outlet that way. So heat gun always wins. Let me move this over. And so what we're going to do now is, and I'll show this camera as well, we're going to feed this little hole here. So let me stab on that record button. We're going to, I just exhausted the battery. 1 second, people. I know it was about to get really good now. It's like, oh my God, I've been watching for this how long? Like 30 minutes and nothing has happened. And now when something was about to happen, I know. Isn't that always the truth? Or you find out you have to run to the store and get something because you just don't have it. So those of you on 360 can actually follow me for a second here while I swap this out here real quick. And we're going to swap batteries. And now I go behind the curtain. La la la. You can see the mystical hand here of, oh no, you can't because we're behind the screen. The close-up screen. Ha 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 ha. So here I am again. And we're going to stick this on here. All right. So my little record camera, you guys can see, sits up here. If you haven't noticed it before, but it's kind of like right here, so you did probably notice. All right, so I am just going to take a break and drink a water so you guys can run to your fridges or grab a snack. Whoop. So we can continue our build. All right, so let me fire this battery up now. It should be all happy that it showed up to the party, or not. All right, so now where were we? We were feeding this up. So I did paint this, so I might need to file this back again. I know, more filing action. It's just, oh my gosh, can I see some more? Because that's just so exciting. All right, so that kind of went in that easily. The paint didn't make a whole heck of a lot of difference, and you can see kind of how that works there. And we're going to bend this tubing and send it up. And one of the reasons I like the thicker tubing is that it kinks a lot less. So we don't want our adult beverage dispensing fountain kinking. And that is water for painting later. And we're just going to continue feeding this up. All right. Up and over. Almost there. You know, this is like super exciting. See, this is why like the short videos that people do. They're like, oh, this is so easy. I'm going to do it. It's like Pinterest. No, fail. All right, so you guys can see kind of there where the tubing is, and I'm gonna try and bend it into this hole, which is gonna be interesting. So maybe a pair of pliers will help me out here. Some needle nose. So I got my floor full of stuff. Let's see if I can stretch over this way. And you guys see the condition of that. That is pretty rusty, but that guy is really old. And I've had him for a long time. So let me see if I can grab the edge of this. I'm gonna hold it so you guys can see it's like peeping through. And then see if we can feed this guy through. I might need to get our heat gun going. I'm like, words? What are words? All right. Let me see if I can, oh, he fell back down. This reminds me of like when you wash clothes, and especially like sweatpants or sports pants with like the strings, and then they go inside and you gotta fish them out again, and it's just so frustrating that I'm like, I'll just buy new ones. Fishing out the string from the hole, such a pain. So that's kind of what we're doing here, but in a much gorier fashion. And it might be heat gun time, unless I go behind the table here and push it with this. So let me just turn that. Sorry for reaching across the wall, but I'm gonna. Now it's about to get real. So this is the stuff that you won't see on our clip show, because we're not rolling on it except live right now. And this is me refusing to get the heat gun, which I so know I should do because we'd already be done with this if I were less stubborn, but okay. We might have to. It's getting it out of this little hole. You can see I'm mangling it, but that's okay because we can always pull excess and cut the mangledness part off. But let me just feed it a tiny bit more. Give me a little more wiggle room. I'm so almost there. There we go. Just needs room to bend. And it could be that I might take a Dremel and make this hole really big. I kind of like the way that it's snug, but if we made it really big, then it would give us more room to bend it inside the skull. And those are my dogs. I have two of them. I have a Bernese Mountain Dog, and then we have a Rescue. And the Rescue, they say, is a mix of Labrador Retriever and Newfoundland. Now, we've had Newfoundlands in the past before. They're such awesome dogs, and if you guys aren't familiar with them, they basically look like giant bears. They're so cool, but they do slobber like a ton, So when you mix it with like a Labrador, you kind of like get a lot less of that feature. But we did, just for kicks, just for fun, a DNA test, you know, because we were curious. And the DNA test came back a little bit different. It said that Eeyore, which is the Rescue, was, it's like almost there, people. It's just like, anyways, Eeyore was 50% Great Pyrenees, which is a bear-looking white dog, and then 25-ish% Staffordshire Terrier, and then a small percent of Brittany Spaniel, which kind of didn't make sense to me if you look at him, which we'll have him on future live streams and stuff, and that'll be fun. But I am going to do this. Out of the hole. Alright, so heat gun it is, people. Like, I have maybe 2 millimeters of it to get out, and it is just not doing it. So, see, like, it wants to come out. It wants to, but it's having an internal struggle, an internal argument with itself. Like, do we really want to be used for this atrocity? There, we got it. We got it. But something tells me I should make this hole bigger, so that way it doesn't bend such to a 90-degree angle inside. So After all that, I'm just going to do that and destroy all the work I've done. All right, so I'm just going to pull this out a little bit and widen this hole. So let me grab my Dremel, which is in one of these drawers here. And there we go. As you can see, I was using this a lot yesterday. Let me see if I can find a better, there we go, something like this. And that will do us fine. And I think I must have closed this real tight the last time, so I might need to get a tool to get it out. Nope. Okay, and we plug this in to the power strip behind me. Now, normally I'd want to wear a quick dust mask here, but we're going to do this pretty quickly. And I've rearranged some of my stuff here, so finding the dust mask might be interesting. So I did a cool new setup for this 360 build, and then I kind of like moved everything, because one of the things you don't realize is that you see everything, like everything, with 360, which is like really cool. So we just moved some of these toolboxes around so you guys can see some neat things. I wouldn't have to run out of the room a lot in order to grab things. So I don't recall where the dust masks are, so guess what? We're just gonna go for it. And we have some pretty good ventilation. I have the fans running because it does get kind of hot in here. So there we go. So let's do this and see where you guys can see it and where this camera can see it as well. You can kind of get an idea of how much back and forth these projects involve. So we got, seemed like we moved ahead, but oh no. And I'm going to stand up for this so I can hold this just a little bit better with my lack of vise here. So let's turn this on. See, vice schmice, we could do it without it. So one of the reasons I avoided the Dremel was because, yes, as I was talking to you, I was trying to remember where certain items were in the shop. So I was trying to avoid it, but this is definitely the faster way to go about it. And let me just tap this out. Tap, tap, taparoo, taparoo, don't you want to go home in your hole? All right, so you can see how much bigger we have our hole now, and this should make it way easier. We won't have to bend it as much. I didn't anticipate such a big bend, but now in practicality, when I was, you know, sometimes you dream up these projects in your head, but then when you start building them, you've got to start to modify the way you were thinking about them sometimes. All right, so we see our tube in there, and I'm just going to pull a little bit of it out and grab my pliers, stick that in there, and much easier. Hold with this and feed with this. so that is done. It's kind of tough because I'm trying to show you guys, but I gotta show this camera as well. But if I put the camera like right above your guys' head, it'd be like, oh my god, you know, she's watching me. All right, so we see how the bend is a lot less severe by opening up that hole. And I'm just gonna take a top view. Yeah, way less severe. And then feed some more in because I am not quite sure how much we're gonna need. And something tells me we are gonna have to open up that zombie head, but I'm gonna try and feed as best I can before having to do so. Because you see, we didn't have to bust out the heat gun, even though we'd probably be finished with this project like, 10 minutes earlier. But details, right? So here I am feeding my jogging pants drawstring through the hole, which is like the worst thing ever. You would think they'd come up with a solution for that by now, so I like knot it 5 times so it doesn't go through the hole. But when they get older, the hole becomes bigger and stretches out, and then you gotta keep knotting it up. All right, so I'm just gonna stretch this to way more than what I think I need. I'm thinking something like this. Pardon my reach. Get rid of some of this stuff. Basically, I'll just put it all on the floor, so when I need to get over there, I'll step on them like Legos, and maybe some of them will go off and sand my foot. It's like a nice exfoliation. All right. Get my googly eyes out of the way, 'cause that is like the finishing touch. So we have this, and now, if I recall, this will just go through our zombie eyeball. So let's try the official of most official placements. Let me just make sure nothing has really crazy kinks or anything. So that looks pretty smooth. It's not kinked at all. Be better if it were recording. So anyways, no kinks, and I'm showing this camera evidence of there being no kinks. So if this doesn't work, we'll know it's not because the hose is kinked. And taking a look through there, making sure nothing is kinked there. So I don't think so. I think we're pretty good here. So let's try and thread this zombie head through. And I think I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to try and put this on the floor because it's all up on me. It is all up on me. Try and do it this way. So you all can see it. So we have our hole right here, and I'm going to try and move all the stuffing to one side, and then maybe run the hose up and over to his eyeball. But we'll see how that goes. So this is going to go, my ball is kind of over here. Yep, all right. So I'm going to feed Sir Zombie Head. You guys are getting like a face full of zombie right now. I do realize that. Alright. But that's good. Alright, so we have him on. Now I'm going to try and thread this in this tiny hole because I just insist on not making anything easier for myself. So, actually, I'll thread this first. And you know what? I will thread this first and get it to the eyeball position. What am I thinking, right? Ooh, it's so soft inside. Got all like cotton brains. Whoop. I need a bigger lap. Alright. You're gonna squish your head and this looks real bad, I know. Alright, so I am almost making it to the eye hole. The eye hole. Yes, that's the way I want to do it. I had a second thought there, but thankfully those go away real quick. I always like having one thought at a time. Alright, so it is like right there, people. It is like right there. I kid you not. I'm just trying to bend it down to the hole. Oh, there's the hole. It wants to come to the hole. Alright. Oh, I did it, people. I did it. I did it. All right. All without damaging the underside. Let's see if I can stick my hand in here again and pull it out. All right, those of you joining us late are probably like super confused as to what's going on right now. Like, what is wrong with this girl? So we are making a zombie fountain, adult beverage fountain. And so it's gonna come out of his fine little eyeball right there. And so now that we have the eyeball threaded through, let's get this. I'm trying to show you all as best I can exactly what I'm doing. So let me stand up to give you guys all the glorious zombie glorious view. All right. And he's losing some stuffing. I can't have him lose his brain. No. All right. I like a thinking zombie. There we go. There. And he's kind of dusty. All right, so we have right here our poll for you guys too. Glorious. I'm going to try and get rid of some of this little zombie hairs coming out, which is really his brain. And here we have a lot of the tube coming out. Of course, we're going to cut that real short because I don't want people to clearly see that we've fished a tube through there. So I'm just going to feel, what I'm doing is just feeling the tube, and you can definitely feel it, and it's wrapping around the top side of his head and coming through. And one of the reasons for that is I want to make sure that there's no kinks in it. So I'm just, because clearly here's the hole. So even if I kind of turn him a little bit like this, here's the hole. And that actually kind of helps hold his head from falling further down. So we might not have to glue him in at all, which is kind of like my preference, because I do like to reuse things. And if you start to glue them, then maybe just a little tack glue gun there. So here you can feel the bridge of it, and it comes down and out through his eye. So before I cut that though, I think I want to test this before we do all that. So let's just see if there's enough pressure, because again, this thing is supposed to shoot over 2 feet. So let's see if that's actually the case, because there's a chance I might have to go with a bigger pump. This one I had lying around, so I always try and use things that I have lying around. So 2 feet would be up to here, you know, which of course we are shorter than that, and it shoots over 2 feet. So it only is going to shoot kind of like up to here, so it's like a foot and some. So that should be good, but I also don't know if we're going to lose flow the longer it has to travel. So upward, it should be able to do more than, you know, the amount of feet. So one of the things I'm going to do is plug it in. Now, you never want to plug a water pump in the dry like this, because it really does hurt the motor and it'll burn out a lot quicker. So you definitely want to submerge this. So one of the things, I'm going to try and do this one-handed. This is going to be interesting for y'all. So one of the things I'm going to do is, some of you will rejoice, but I am going to disappear for a second here to fill my pot here with water, so you can play the tunes that you want, and I'll be right back, because I figure before we start the actual painting process, if this doesn't work, then it's going to kind of suck anyways. So I'll be back. And if it doesn't work, then actually no, we can actually start the painting process, because all I would do then is buy a bigger pump. So we actually don't have to test this, but I'm really curious about this, so I'll be right back, guys. Hang out for a second, check the shop out. I'll be right back. I'm back. Some of you are rejoicing, some of you are not, but that's okay. I love y'all just the same. So, okay, theoretically, the zombie head, and this is where I'm taking a poll, people. Let me know what you guys prefer, if you want the zombie head to sit inside the cauldron, and it's not necessarily going to be this one, or if you want the zombie head to be outside the cauldron, like this, you know. I don't know, I'm voting for kind of outside. But you guys, even if you're not watching this stream now and then you're watching it later, I'm still going to be listening to your votes. So go ahead and let me know. And all I'm going to do now is untangle first. It would be great. Now this you can see is like way super far too long. So this could be problematic, but I'm still I'm just super curious about this. So stick that in there. So we have it submerged underwater. And the second I plug this in, it's going to want to blow. So I'm going to stick him over on here. Okay. And he's not going to want to stay, but we're going to do the best we can. So actually I have to move him over here so I can reach the plug. All right. So, all right, this is going to get, either nothing is going to happen or, there we go. I think this tube is way too long. All right, so here comes our water. Guys, that is so cool. So imagine it's like this, you know, adult beverage. That'll be cool, and it'll be coming from like up here, so you won't see the tube, because that's kind of lame, like way lame. So, vote, poll. Should the zombie head be inside, like part of the cauldron, like he's, you know, coming in it? That way, the cool thing about that is that the cauldron refills itself. I also don't have to paint the bottom. Not that I'm trying to cut down my workload or anything, people, but that's an option. Or the other option is to kind of have it like this, where, of course, all this will be disguised and hidden and stuff, but I kind of like this setup better, where it's kind of like he would probably have to be kind of like this, and there's like moss growing, and you grab your cup, and it's a self-feeding system. So the only thing that the hostess or host would have to pay attention to is making sure that that water pump is indeed submerged. So, you know, just refilling periodically. And, ooh, we should do a test and see if our eyeballs work. So rather than doing the sensible thing, which is turning this off, I'm gonna reach. Okay, some eyeballs. Let's see if I can see if these float. And again, this was just an assumption. Like I build everything. And see, assumptions work sometimes. So they float, people. Check that out. I'm going to bring this closer to you because, you know, I'm totally trying my luck here for you guys to see this cool thing. So that's pretty awesome. See some floating eyeballs. All right, now I'm going to turn this off and we can start the painting process. So, there we go. And which one is it? It's this one. All right. So, retrieve my eyeballs. I'm going to put them on the plates. Okay, you're good, right? You're good? We should come up with a name for him. I don't know what, but... All right. Trying to get the water out. Nobody saw that. Oh, you guys did, because this is 360. So... But the regular people will not see that. They'll be like, oh my god, this chick is like perfect. Everything she built turns to gold. Oh, I want to be just like her. But all you guys will know, like, no, you don't. No. You can see, like, behind me, there's, like, water still in this thing. And because it's so long, I'm just going to put this over here. Enough of that charade. Where is it coming from? Alright. Enough of this charade. Oh, I still don't want to just detach it from this thing because this was such a bear. And here we go. I see it. Or maybe this 360 thing wasn't such a good idea. Psych! I'm much like the clip show people that just come and watch the clips and they're like, oh my god, this is so genius. This chick is like the most genius. Nope. You guys get to see the ungenius moments of how this all works. Okay, so gotta rock them back and forth like a rowboat. There we go. I think we got it all, or mostly it all, where it's not gonna really bug us. So let me clean up this my child's workstation area here, and we'll continue. So I'm going to put this behind me, where I will not at all roll into, step into, or trip into at all. We know how that's going to go. Alright. And paper towels. I have like all this cool stuff behind here. It's like my little bat cave. Alright, so luckily I used this paint, this table to paint on because the paint has made a layer of water protectant. Alright, so I have these red solo cups, but it's not for adult beverages quite yet. They actually have some water in case we want to dilute down any paints and create some cool effects. So, a little quick cleanup here. Get this working. It's like I'm doing dishes in my funny looking kitchen. Alright. It's my cutting board. But not for vegetables this time. I knew it was missing a foot. And I'm just going to take care of some of the water on the floor here so I don't swish around, swim in it. Periscope down. Alright. Are you still leaking? Alright. And we got some leakages there, but we're gonna leave the leakages. So we have our zombie head fountain, in theory, working. So let's think about how to decorate him. And I'm kind of glad that we fished everything in prior to the decorating, because I can see everything we would have done would just be like really horrible. So I'm actually going to start with the decorating from the top and work my way down. And we'll see if we get to this base. I might actually sleep on it and see... not on him, but this base, and really think about whether or not I want to put it inside the cauldron or pot or outside, because if it's outside, I'll decorate it with moss. If not, and it's going to go inside, obviously we don't want like moss flying around or floating around. So let me get everything really dry here before we start. Get him dry. Now, one of the cool blood effects that we are not going to get to this time, but we will in a future live stream, is probably something early next week type of live stream, because it is kind of the finishing touch. You can use things like oatmeal and rice to make, the rice makes it look like maggots are kind of coming out. In these areas right here where, you know, you kind of see where I clearly cut the skin, it looks kind of fake. You can put some of that rice or oatmeal. Oatmeal looks like brains, so I might actually do a combination of oatmeal, because it looks like some brains kind of came out as he got impaled, and then a little bit of rice, because now his head's been on here for a while, and most adult beverages are kind of a dark red color, and so the blood is not as fresh, and so we can get some little maggot action. And in case I don't get to live stream that, basically all you do is take cooked white rice. And if you want to go for the full effect, you paint just a little tip, one tip of the rice black, so it looks like a maggot head. And then all you do then is take either like a Mod Podge or a clear drying glue, dab it, and then put your grains of rice, and then you water down some browns and some reds, and you use that kind of like an ink wash over that, and it just looks like there's like maggots and stuff crawling inside. And the same is true for oatmeal. So those are some really cool blood effects that I've just kind of tried while making costumes and things like that, just kind of like trial and error that I found that look really, really realistic. So we have our guy here. All I'm going to do is indeed add a dab of glue, so that way his entire head is not just like resting on this this tube here and applying pressure to it. So I'm just going to move this up just a little bit and apply some glue to him. And more I'm thinking I'm going to rest this outside, because I just don't like the, hey, you just put a bunch of PVC stuff together to make this type of look that this is rocking right now. So first things first, let's get this thing glued up. So I'm going to maneuver over here without stepping on all my Lego items. And glue gun, I think it's in here somewhere. And just in case I need more cartridges, which I should. Crafts time, folks! But of the bloody variety, which is the best kind of crafts. Alright. So, let's plug this in, and this has got to heat up a little bit. Let me unplug the Dremel. Maybe put that away so I don't step on it. And plug this in. I'll just plug it into that socket that's got like the burnt look. That's more Halloween-y. Alright, so you, Dremel, will go back into your home, as hopefully we'll be done with you. Put you in here. Along with this, we'll go in here. Alright, so now you guys get to see all the fun and all its glory that it takes to make these things. It's like so riveting and exciting and heart-pounding, as in not. Alright, so let's put this on high and get it rocking and rolling. So I'm going to let it do its thing there and start putting some of these stuff away. And alright, got a few things down here. Okay, eyeballs, you can go. Now let's think about how I'm gonna do this. So we have our guy here, and let me just adjust the camera, the other camera, to a higher angle, so I don't have to keep, you know, shifting all the time for you guys and for it and all that fun stuff. So let me just, since we're starting with the top anyways, get this camera kind of happily looking at what I'm doing. So this is basically all it takes to film every single shot that you guys see in the clip show, and adjusting cameras and stopping what you're doing, which always kind of like messes up your train of thought, you know. So let's see how the glue gun is going. Feels kind of lame. Like, yeah, I went for it. Y'all saw that. No guts, no glory, people. All right, so we're not going to need this anymore because that was kind of the original idea for the tubing. So that goes away. And let me start grabbing some paints and some moss, because I think I'm going to maggot it up here, and I'm going to moss it down here with maybe a couple maggots. And I also have to think about that if I do decide to put this in the pot, maybe the water level will come to about here. So I don't want to go too crazy, but we definitely want it to look like blood is like dripping down and all that kind of stuff. So, and I also want to accentuate some of these scratches as well. But let's get the blood situation going here. So I have my trusty Halloween or festive fall plate there, super high tech. And let me grab some paints and start this process. So the Goku versus Superman chest is actually, you know, where I keep my lighter stuff, some of the soldering stuff, and a lot of the paints, arts and crafts type of thing. Because toolboxes, you know, they're expensive. So what I ended up doing is going through to a thrift shop and getting that. And you guys can see the entire clip show, which is shorter, of how this all came together, because it definitely did not look like that when I picked it up. So let's get that going, and I have a little bit of water. Let me see what kind of paint brushes that I want to use. Let me grab a couple. And now, when we do these live streams, it's not like the entire project has been planned out and everything's been practiced upon. 100% of the time, we're doing this for the first time. You know, like they say, 100% of the time, no, 60% of the time, it works every time. Anchorman. That's pretty much how we go here. So we don't know a lot of the time how this thing is going to end up looking. It could end up looking really dumb, in which case we scrap it or we try and fix it. But so it goes. And we have, let me just put a little bit of water in here and paint. And so what I'm thinking about doing is that this entire pole here is two unicolor. It's like the same color all the way around, and you saw how really cool barbs that we have here. My camera fell asleep. I know some of y'all did too, but here we go. Wakey, wakey. The pain is still continuing. So a lot of these barbs look really cool, but you know, from far away, just because you did add all of those scratch effects and things, I'm adding a bunch of dust to my paint area right now. Just because you added all those cool like depth and effects, they get hidden, you know, when you're standing from far away. You don't want people to have to go like, oh wow, yeah, those are some amazing deets. So one of the things that I want to try and do is fill in the crevices with a darker color. Because then that's going to make all the scratch marks really appear. But I don't want to go in all like black paint on it just quite yet. I want to try and dilute it to a way that I like it, and then use a paper towel to blot the excess away. Now, the consistency, I'm not quite sure. So we are just going to kind of fly with this one. So let's just... I'm going to put a little bit of black. That's probably far too much, but I do want to attack the rest of this pole too, because it's got scratches on it as well. So let's add a little bit of water and see kind of how that looks. Now I'm going to go at it with a huge brush. I'm just going to start that way and see how I like it. So I'm going to mix it up. That is way too thick, I think. And again, I am guessing at this, people. So it just makes sense that if we were to do like an ink wash, think of it as an ink wash, over that it would fall into the crevices. That is the theory. And we're going to see if this theory really works. So let me just get the excess off. Come on, wake up. There we go. Did you guys hear that? That camera fell asleep again, didn't it? Of course it did. Oh, that is my phone. That is on my chair. That's why it's going so loud, because it's actually vibrating on the metal. And it probably got fountainized. Okay, so I'm going with a consistency that kind of looks like this. It's not quite water, you know? I should probably make it a little more watery. Let's see, I could maybe mess this up, but let's see. It's always easier to go less watery than more watery. You know, like if we put this on and it doesn't really have the effect, we can always, you know, do more of it. Versus too thick, now it's kind of messes it up. So let me wake this camera back up again. And it looks like our paint or our glue gun is ready. So let me hit that up real quick first before we start to quash everything. And I'm going to basically go behind here. Let me turn this around without affecting this, which, check that out. I am really trying here, aren't I? That is about to go. Because everything is like touching on everything. So it's like club night. That day before Thanksgiving, turns out it's the biggest club night of the year. I wouldn't know, but all right. So what I'm doing is using my leg to hold the tube here while trying to peep over and hit the record button while doing this. See how much fun it is to do this by myself here? All right, let me just, there we go. Glue is also a cool way to make dripping blood, which we're going to try as well. But first, oh, come on. There we go. Just dab-a-dab-a-roo. Oh, I hate those strings. I'm going to try and wrap the string around. Alright, so I literally put the tiniest little dab just to kind of hold him in place. Actually, I'm going to move him a little bit. And I'm going to try and do the smart thing and move this over. Oh my god. You only get one a month, people, of doing the smart thing. The rest of what I do is not so smart. Okay. So. I like the way his skin kind of folds in a little bit too into the oh my god, doing and talking is not working right now. I'm like almost at the end of my glue. Okay, remember when I said I was just going to use a dab? I lied, because I'm actually going a very, very thin layer here. And this part is going to get covered by like brains and maggot looking stuff. Okay, so I'm going to flip and let that dry just for a second here before we start the ink wash process, which, you know what, we might just practice that down here just in case a little bit. Make sure that it works on our base here. And for that, I'm actually going to place some clay because the base will either be covered by moss anyways, or it's going to be submerged. So I think that's a good place to start. Whoa. Put that there. Alright, that's looking pretty good. And the zombie is facing me now. So I'm just going to take this off. Let's try the consistency of this situation here. And for this, let me bring back down our camera. And periscope down. Ooh. Alright, so thanks for joining me for this behind the scenes. That way I don't have to feel like I'm building alone, guys. It's always, you know, great to have you guys around. And trying to figure this stuff out together. So here we have the base. Let me start that recording process, and let's see kind of like how this ink wash situation is looking. I'm not too worried about the tubing because all that will be hidden. So the idea is really to just kind of brush it and see how it's just like bleh all over. And it already starts to kind of give our metal kind of a neat look. And you can also use a sponge to just kind of get it on there. But the idea is to get it to fall into all the little creases inside. So that way, when we wipe it off, theoretically, it should stay in the creases. Now, just doing this, I think I can probably wet it down just a little bit more. I'm not too sure, but let's see. Now, the thing with these washes is that they do take longer to dry, so we're not going to finish the entire painting process. I think we're just going to test out a bunch of stuff, and then we can always come back with more painting action later, which I know you guys are like, oh my God, more like real-time project making. Oh, I can't wait. So here's where the magic happens, or so what we think is going to happen is basically when we wipe all this off, it's not going to wipe from the crevices. And if you just kind of dab it a little bit, kind of get a cool just effect where it looks like you can see right around the crevices there, the black stays. And so we're just going to let that seep in and dry. And I think we're good with our glue here. So I'm going to try it up here, which means camera's got to go back up again. So bear with me. I know it's like super exciting. But those of you that watch, not just me, but other people on YouTube, I think now you probably have a whole other level of appreciation for how long this stuff takes to do, because it's not just the project, but it's all the rest of the stuff that accompanies it. Lights and cameras and constantly having to stop to, you know, film and make sure you have the right angle and all that, because if it's not caught on camera, well then you just did a whole project and sometimes you got to redo it, and that's always tough. So here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and blotch this up real good. Now, one of the things I'm gonna do is just kind of protect my zombie head here a little bit. That's all I really want to do. Oop, and that's got right in his ear ball right there. So I'm coming up around you so you can see what's going on. If you immediately wipe it, you should be good. But as I drag this across, you can already see a lot of these scratch effects that I did start to come about, because in theory, our black ink is kind of seeping in to all of those crevices. So that kind of helps to bring that about. Plus it makes the metal look worn, like it's been through hell and back, which is kind of the idea for Halloween. And let that kind of sit there for a little bit. Then actually I may not wipe that off at all, because if you look at it, it all seeped into the scratches. It looks really, really good. I'm just going to, you know, I should probably stop, but you know, sometimes you just gotta keep going. I'm gonna ink wash it one more time, because in this instance, I probably could have gone with a thicker black, but you can see kind of how everything is working out. So that way it's not so clean. This is too clean gray for me. So we definitely want to dirty it up. And by the time we add a lot of the red blood effects, it's going to look really, really good. So I'm going to let that dry. Now this takes quite a while to dry. And so I'm going to move on to down here. We're going to work this base a little bit more, like all the scratches along this base. And then we'll probably call it somewhat perhaps quits for the day, because that's actually going to have to dry before we move on to any mossing. And that might actually be good, because it'll give me time to prepare some of the effects I was talking to you about, like the maggots and the brain and stuff, because I think that would be kind of cool to show how all that is done. And hopefully I don't hit you guys. I'm kind of working real close to you right now. And there's a car alarm going on outside. I don't know whose it is, but it isn't mine. Or that's what I'm saying. But it kind of sounds like it's coming from like over there. So, here we go again. And I am just gonna doubly doop down the base with this ink wash. Down. And thanks for joining me, guys. I think I'm going to let this dry out a little bit, and we'll do another one of these to wrap up this project, show you some of the really cool effects, and some of the really cool just kind of brain-making effects. To really tie this together, I'm just kind of shoving the black inside each of the scratches here, just so it grabs on. And I may wipe some of this off. This is a bit much, but we can do like blood drip effects, and you can do that with paint, but you can also do that with our nice little glue gun there. And you are welcome to join us for the clip show of this project, which is the really quick showing you, if you were to want to do this yourself, all of the most important steps of doing it. Of course, you miss all these fails and these oops moments, but it's just a quick live show, just so you can replicate the project, without having to sit through like an actual real-time project. But that's looking pretty good there. And I'm gonna just dab it on up. Because it makes it look like, I know I used that antique pewter from Rust-Oleum, and it naturally kind of gives you that hammered effect, but this just kind of brings it out and does it so much more. And I'm not using any special techniques. It's just diluting down an acrylic black paint and with water, and just kind of doubly doop like that. And now, because it's been watered down, this does take a little bit of time to dry, and that's what I'm going to do. We're going to let this dry. And I think that's it for today. I will probably return tonight or tomorrow and continue this project. If we run the live stream cameras, then we'll certainly do that. I'll give you guys a heads up, and that'll be fun. You'll get to see some rice and maggot and brain action for tomorrow. But like I said, thanks a lot for joining me. You get to see a lot of the behind the scenes of how these things work. It's, it's time consuming. There's a lot of mistakes that people never get to see. So again, we do this once a month for you guys, Wednesday at 2 p.m. And then, of course, we have our regular clip show at 7 p.m. It's usually the last Wednesday of every month. And if you join me on Patreon, we do a lot more, not just of these real-time builds, but mini tutorials, skill learning. We're going to get into some programming, Arduino, and beginning robotics as well for patrons, so you can ask questions. We learn together. The link for that is beneath. You get a lot of other cool little goodies by joining and being part of the community. And, we'll see where this goes. I got to get in time for Halloween, and hopefully it won't be, too gross where people won't actually drink from it. Well, more for me, right? So, in the meantime, happy Halloween to you guys. I will catch you later. Become or follow Wonderspawn. You can also follow my personal page, which is Rachel_DeBarros. That info will be down in the description as well, because then you get apprised of all the live streams going on, all the bonus content that we put up, and we try and just make everything as transparent and fun for you guys as possible. So until then, happy Halloween and have a spooktacular day. See you guys.